In this video, I will talk about the tensile pixel model that we've developed to explain the evolution and origin of our universe. It is the proposed principal zone axiom set. And the first axiom is that there is a Cartesian coordinate generated of infinite dimensions, or I should say of 3 dimensions of infinite size. And this is what we would call the void. And the void has no laws of physics, it's just a construct. But the laws of physics are present in what we call the vacuum pixel. And so the universe originally started off with one pixel, and this pixel had certain properties, certain tensile properties, as well as inertia. And this pixel is the one which actually has all the other axioms of the tensile pixel model apply within that universe. And it's analogous to the chess game, where the laws of chess game apply only in the chessboard. Anything that's around it is just void. It's not part of the logic of a chess game. And here, only the space that is filled with pixels follow the laws of physics. And so the first step in the first iteration, what happened was there was just one pixel which followed all the laws of physics. And then in the second iteration, there were a new set of pixels created all around it. And the reason for that is because one of the axioms of the tensile pixel model is that void is not allowed. However, you can only make changes with one layer at a time, and you can create pixels only which are attached to an existing pixel. And so that's why in each iteration, a new layer of pixel got created. And in each iteration, you are looking at a very small time scale, so that over billions of years, we have the universe that we see today. One definition of time that we're using here is the iteration number itself. And so what we're saying is the iteration number in this model is the very essence of time. So in each iteration, newer and newer layers of pixels are getting created. The second part of the tensile pixel model is that each vacuum pixel can have creation of a matter-antimatter pair. So for example, each pixel, in each pixel, there's a certain probability that electron and positron can emerge in that vacuum pixel. And that's consistent with the vacuum energy interpretation of quantum mechanics. Now, the current vacuum energy is low enough that it doesn't lead to generation of heavier elementary particles, but you can create possibly electrons and positrons with the current vacuum energy. And energy is something that we define in much greater detail, but here the energy represents the probability of an event in this model. And so based on the value of the vacuum energy, there's a certain probability that a electron-positron pair can be created. And you require much higher energy to create heavier elementary particles. And so one has to postulate that at the very beginning of the universe, the vacuum energy of each pixel was much higher, so that it allowed for the creation of heavier elementary particles, which formed the particles such as quarks, which resulted in the formation of baryons, such as neutrons and protons. So that happened very early on in the universe, which allowed for the creation of the nuclear particles. And over time, that vacuum energy has gone down to the current level, and for that reason, it's not possible for creation of baryons in our current universe. The second or the third postulate, I should say the third axiom we have is that the particle actually shrinks the pixel, whereas an antiparticle expands the pixel. And so when you have the creation of matter and antimatter, then you are neither expanding or contracting the pixel. But we define another term which is called zero-point energy. And what zero-point energy does is it leads to a probability that the electrons and positron or another particle and antiparticle pair is going to separate each iteration. And so we can have the vacuum energy create the particles and zero-point energy actually separate the particles. And this is different than the current theory of in quantum mechanics, where vacuum energy and zero-point energy are used interchangeably. And so here we're defining vacuum as different than void, and we're defining vacuum energy as different than zero-point energy. So as we have discussed so far, energy is represented by probability. And so what that means is the probability of an event in an ensemble of multiverse. And so in each iteration, a particle has many different surrounding pixels where it can move to. And all those possibilities exist. And for that reason, in each iteration, you keep having newer and newer universes created. And so you have, again, a superposition of these multiverses forming the ensemble of the principal zone multiverse. And because zero-point energy itself will cause different particles to move from one iteration to the other, there will be a random walk type of motion that will take place in all elementary particles in the superimposed multiverse. And for that reason, you end up with what is described as the wave function of an elementary particle, because it is the superimposed ensemble of multiverses which make an electron, for example, not in any one location, but in any of the many locations that the superimposed multiverse will allow it to exist. However, where the electron goes is determined by the wave function as described by the Schrodinger's equation. And one also needs to take into account that if you have additional energy fields operating in that environment where that electron exists, then you can have a preferential movement of the particle in different directions. However, that still, unless the force field is very, very strong, you're not going to have a directed movement of a particle in only one direction. You're going to have what we would describe as a random walk model, very much like what you see in Brownian motion in the movement of molecules in a gas. And so here the directional movement can be interpreted as the movement of gas in a higher pressure environment to a lower pressure environment. The same way we can look at movement of an electron as a cloud, electrons moving in one direction to another in the presence of different force fields. The only particle which has a directional movement is a photon, or particles with no mass and the speed of light. And so here we define the speed of light as the time it takes for a photon to move from one pixel to the adjacent pixel. And so axiomatically, that's the fastest speed possible. That's the speed of photon, and axiomatically a photon can move from one pixel to the adjacent pixel and no faster than that. And all the other elementary particles with mass can only move slower than that, even with very high energy fields present. And these points will be brought up again in the next video on relativity. One critical experiment that was important in developing the theory of quantum mechanics was the double slit experiment. And what that showed was that an electron can act like a wave in certain experimental situations and can behave like a particle in different situations. And so in our tensile pixel model, what we are doing is stating that in each unique universe, an electron is a particle. And when you superimpose multiple multiverses where that same electron is at different location in different pixels, then it gives that image of a wave. And part of the reason for that is that one of the axioms of the model is that the electron is moving as dictated by the Schrodinger's equation. And so in different in different universes in the multiverse, the electron has actually moved in different locations. And so you have a superimposed multiverse. And in a double slit experiment, when an observer observes a specific electron, it is visible at one specific location on the screen, whereas when it's moving through those slits, it is behaving like a wave. And the way we interpret that is that ultimately it is the observer, the humans who are observing it, they're actually they're using their axiom of selection to have that electron appear in the screen at one location, and all the other possibilities at that point go in the imaginary world immediately. And so in quantum mechanics, one of the major puzzles has been, how do you explain the phenomenon of observation? And that remains a very unresolved question in quantum mechanics. And the way we are resolving it is through the use of axiom of selection. And it's what the consciousness algorithm is able to achieve. There are many other conundrums in quantum mechanics that the tensile pixel model can address. For example, the most important puzzle that has been described in 1935 by Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen is the so-called EPR paradox. And what it shows is it describes a thought experiment where an electron can have paired electrons can have opposite spin, and even if they travel at speeds close to the speed of light, their spin properties are linked such that if you observe the spin of one electron, you can determine the spin of the other electron without even observing it. And the way the tensor pixel model is explaining it, and the Logiverse model paradigm is explaining it, is that once you observe that one electron, all the other universes which have the opposite spin for the other electron that you've not observed, all those universes immediately go into the imaginary world. And for that reason, information can travel at speeds faster than the speed of light. The EPR paradox is also described as the entanglement phenomenon. And this entanglement is something that has remained a mystery in quantum mechanics for the longest time. What the tensor pixel model claims is that entanglement is very much a result of universes going in the inaccessible multiverse or in the imaginary world. So the very creation of human consciousness algorithm was the first step in entanglement itself, where all other universes where that human consciousness algorithm did not exist, those universes were no longer accessible, even though they were part of the principal zone universes. If they did not have a consciousness algorithm, they were inaccessible universes. And so whenever we're making an observation and we're using the axiom of selection in the process, we are throwing many universes into the imaginary realm, and for that reason, we're getting the observations entangled with our observations. And so in that sense, the observation puzzle as well as the entanglement puzzle are both resolved through the axiom of selection. In quantum mechanics, we also have this so-called Schrodinger's paradox, which is in some ways similar to the other paradoxes that arise because of our inability to explain observation. And so in the Schrodinger's cat paradox, we have a situation where an atom which is emitting radiation and an atom that's not emitting radiation are both in a superimposed state, and both realities are equal or equally likely until we actually observe. And so in a situation, we can design an experiment where if a molecule decays, results in a cat in that room dying versus the cat not dying. And the question becomes, how can you have a cat alive and dead at the same time in a superimposed state? And here, again, this scenario is described as a multiverse where only the observation then has some universes go in the imaginary realm. As you can see, this is a complex topic with multiple other lines of discussion. Please read the book that I've written on this topic for greater understanding of how tensor pixel model and the associated spring lattice model can explain the laws of physics as described in the quantum theory.